Ruth McCracken and Trissetta Washington, two top-notch career and business strategists, are here to help you defy standards and break boundaries. Join them as they share powerful insights that have already impacted thousands of people and will have a major impact on your career, life balance, and business.
Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Trissetta. Welcome.
Hey, Ruth. How are you today?
Girlfriend, I am doing amazing. It's Friday. I feel so delighted to be here, and I'm excited to be amongst our community. Welcome, everyone. Let us know where you are, maybe connecting from while we're here live recording in our community. We're really excited. Today's the last Friday, by the way, of February. So we've already championed through January. Now we've pretty much surfboard through February. And we want to be able to kind of just bring you all up to speed as to what we've been doing here on Breaking Boundaries. And as you all know, we've been basically giving recognition what we saw fit and what we saw do when it comes to leveraging your voice, who was there in the past in terms of our trailblazers when it comes to Black History Month, who we identified as Black leaders, whether it been in the past, present, or even in the future. But today, my friend, I want you all to go ahead and click like and share before we get in the grooves of getting started. And go ahead and grab your favorite beverage. And if this is your first encounter, with myself and my amazing friend, Trissetta, I'm going to take the time to let you know who I am. Well, I am Ruth. I am the founder of RAM International & Co. with our amazing signature program, Promote Yourself. High career professionals, yes, they come to us because they are now seeming to find themselves to be unrecognized and want to shift to be able to now showcase themselves as superstars so they can attract those premium companies their way, and most importantly, being able to magnetize the lifestyle that they truly deserve.
And I am Coach Trissetta Anel Washington, CEO and founder of Profitable Productivity, where I partner with coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, thought leaders to help them have it all without sacrificing the things that matter most. This is what I like to call balanced ambition. And I am so excited to be here with my friend Ruth, wrapping up our boundary breaker, Black History Month, leveraging your voice, all the things.
All of that, yes. And it's been amazing ride. Would you agree, Trissetta?
It's been really great. It's been really interesting to, having to do the research to prepare for these videos, for these live streams has just been really enlightening, learning more about specifically women in history, because I realized today that we only highlighted women.
You know what? We sure did. And not to say that listen, guys, don't come for us. We know that there's been quite a bit of, philanthropists, leaders of men in color. And I get that. But as you all know, we are women of color, and we definitely want to be able to align what we can talk to, relate with, and more likely being able to share it as a full revelation or awareness on, hey, look who's actually done or is currently doing some of these groundbreaking boundaries, breaking some of the rules on our behalf, and what can you all do and what traits can you all obtain, right, while on this ride. So for today's topic, though, my friend, myself and Trissetta, we came into agreement and say, you know what? Let's share our story, right? How many of you all are excited to know that we're going to share a part of us to you for the very first time here in our live community together? And we want to be full and transparent. And, yes, we have those who came after us or before us, and are currently being our activists when it comes to those Black leaders. Let's give you a bit of our story. What made me who I am today, right? Yeah. How did I even become who I am today? And was it alone? I can definitely assure you that it wasn't alone, my friend. Now, let me know in the comments that if my story may relate to you. Coming from my family for my mom and my dad, they were basically giving us the opportunity to see more. You know, they were raised in a farm. They were raised in the Caribbean the islands, and most importantly, they were determined. They were Haitians. I was the first generation. I am the first generation through this Haitian community in the West Indies. But my parents, they did something that I believe back then, when I didn't know for sure, I was kind of unclear on my younger version or my mindset at the time. But during the time that before I even became the first college graduate of a family of 4, you got to think, I need you all to kind of let me know if this is resonating with you as well. When you're raised up with a very restricted home and discipline, and they're telling you, okay, having outside any interaction is pretty much off the borders, right? You're not even being able to say hi to your neighbors, love thy neighbors. None of that is even happening in the world of Ruth. Fast forward, when I was in college, I don't know if any one of you all can attest, I end up having my firstborn in my second year of school. And my father, being a very huge disciplinary type of role model, him and I didn't talk for 2 years. Let me know if you all can relate in anywhere in the comments where what you became as this you were seen as the apple of his eyes. He had all these vision and goals for you to push and break some of the cycles that he believed was given to him from maybe his forefathers and mothers before him, right? And here I am, his first seed, his firstborn, and completely went a different direction. But here's the truth. The accountable part of him, the role model part of him, decided to come out and say, I have to support my daughter no matter what. And as open arms, I received my father back, right? And he's like, Ruth, let's go ahead and rekindle our love for one another, right? Because my love never lost. It's just he was disappointed, right? How many of you all can understand that you may have disappointed a loved one or a caregiver and thinking that you were going to be the one to successfully ride this home, but life event happens, right? And then you have to pause for the cause. But now that I had him back in my life and that drive, where am I getting at? I want to share with you what I knew to be true for me, because it was massively frustrating. Being a single mom, being able to raise a child by pretty much the majority of my time by myself without resources and very limited resources within that time frame. My father never gave up on me. He's like, Ruth, let's go ahead and get you back enrolled in school. Let's go ahead and, get you where you get to decide as far as what you want to major in, right? I went through so many obstacles. I even find myself where I said, I've had it. I don't want to do it anymore. It's that I have it moment became a story to the new beginning. It closed one chapter, yes, and that have it mentality shifted something in me, and having my voice behind in the scenes with my dad calling me every week. Who remembers Sprint long distance, right? When you're having to make sure you have a certain amount of balance in, because now your dad's calling you long distance, making sure that you're not, playing hooky or just skipping class, but knowing that you have that silent voice behind you, right? Making sure that you take those classes and just motivating, being your coach. Who had a dad coach growing up, right? Someone who is there to just hold your hand with you in a vocal way, to just making sure that you're nudged and you're staying in alignment. Who can relate, right? And so thank you all for joining. Thanks, Jernede. I appreciate your love for coming here into our community. So my point to you all is, and let me know if this is something that you can also say, what you're talking to me, add some fires and comments into the chat room. The number one trait that I believe that came out of me, and by the way, I was able to successfully become a cum laude within my actual graduating college university, and was able to get a 3.8 on Wade. And where am I getting at? I was the first to get my master's, the first generation, first oldest child. Now, I'm telling you, this ride was not easy. Who can say that? It was definitely to the point where I told you I threw in the towel. I said, I've had it. I have had it. So I'm going to talk to you all and let me know if you can relate, and as far as, have you took these into consideration when it comes to certain type of traits? The one I mentioned was perseverance. And what that means, basically, for those who are maybe wanting to hear in a different aspect or a different context, is persistent in doing something despite of how hard it is, the difficulty or delay in achieving that success.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so awesome.
And
it's so interesting. I feel like, and I know we'll get into this a little bit later, but like I feel like every single one of the boundary breakers that we've highlighted over this series, that we could say that same thing about each one of them, that perseverance was one of the character traits that they held in order to make the history that they have made.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And Cole, yes, I agree with you. Thank you for giving a shout out to Samuel Ball from Carolina and what he's done. He mentioned in the comments that man had a part in Black history. It was said that he was the real promoter of the Underground Railroad before the Harriet Tubman. Okay. And Rosa Parks. I don't know if that to be true, but I love the fact where you're going there like, hey, our brothers did something and created a mission. So I definitely want to be grateful and thanking you for sharing that. So yes, awesome sauce. Now, I thought it would definitely be another icebreaker for you all as to what did I see myself doing in terms of the perseverance? What else did I had to tackle, right? Because if you all know, having to be able to study through and then skim through calculus, you're not skimming through no calculus. You're going to need some Holy Spirit, maybe some holy water. You're going to definitely want to be able to be fasting because you got to stay focused. You're not even wanting to go party and all of that. Where am I getting at? I had to make a decision and create a different also a type of trait, which is self-discipline. Ooh. And up to this point, I'm still exercising self-discipline. And let me tell you what exactly self-discipline actually mean. It's the ability to control like one's pretty much feelings, basically what you're able to overcome, whether it be your weaknesses, the ability to pursue what one thinks is right, despite the temptations to abandonment. Like I said, temptations going to parties, maybe staying up after midnight, knowing that I got to be, my first class is at 7:30 in the morning, right? It's creating that self mindset, being able to disrupt what you've been accustomed to. But if you want to be attaching or attracting any kind of abundance or wealth, you got to be able to get out with the old and get in with the new. Yes. Now I'll talk about later as to what did I do in order to be able to maintain that perseverance? What did I have to overcome or stay focused on to maintain that self-discipline, right? But I definitely want to be able to share with you all a story that I believe to be true and what ways it definitely was able to help promote that I can do it too within my family, within my community, as well as within the nation at large, that I too can make a difference. Yes, I can get my master's, and yes, I can be a single mom at the time. I was in my early 20s and still going through to commissioning myself and rewarding myself because I knew my father had a dream as well. He had a dream that he wanted to cancel some of the bloodline, type of outcomes that gave us this belief of thinking that this is the norm. I would love for you to just come on and let me know something, Tracetta.
I just thought about something when you were talking about, kind of like your father having this dream for you and, for his family. And I feel like it's a very common thing for parents, right? When we first find out that we're going to become parents, we have all these hopes and dreams, and we have this vision for how we desire our child's life to progress. And sometimes we'll do a little projecting, right? We might do a little projecting and end up trying to force our desires on our children. And I think that's another boundary breaker trait that I think that you held, is staying true to what you desired and not, you still kind of fulfilled the dream and desire of your father, but you did it in your own way, right? And I think that's something that we really could take away from, if we could take another character trait, is to really allow yourself to stay true to what you desire and not bend and break, not abandon your own values, not abandon your own value or desires, not abandon your own dreams, but take them and make them your own. Maybe even take your parents' desires or the people who influence you in your life and make them your own, and
I love
not,
that.
no,
No, that's spot on 100%. Because even though, although I believe he meant well, he basically maximized what he was taught, what he learned, and this is his way of teaching and cultivating and coaching, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, I have to make a decision. I then have to decide, do I renege and be disobedient, or do I rightly see what resonate with me, knowing that, what do I have to lose? At the end of the day, we're all taking risks by going through life and knowing that we're going to have to die at one point or another. But now let's take a risk and a chance of taking our goal, taking that dream, and then being grateful that I had someone to nudge me while going through the frustration, while going through the, feeling the discomfort, being able to, making sure I tend to my daughter, making sure that she's well fed and have a roof over her head while I stay up till 1, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock sometimes, studying. That's another trait I believe too, studying. And not just for the sake of outcome, but studying who are you wanting to become, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I could totally relate to that because I did that too. I was a single parent as well during my college years, and having to, I would set the alarm, get up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, do homework for an hour or so, and then go back to bed to get up for 6 o'clock and do it all over again the next day. So,
Yeah.
and that definitely does take that self-discipline that you're talking about, and perseverance. Yeah. I guess that's a perfect segue into me kind of sharing my own boundary breaking stories.
Yes.
So my childhood was a lot, I would say, is a lot different from Ruth's life experience. I was actually adopted at 2 weeks old, and by my parents, and both of them are highly educated. My father has his PhD, my mom has her master's degree. So it was just kind of like an expectation, we're going to go, my brother and I would go to university. But, because of that, and during the time period that I was growing up, I was afforded a lot of opportunities. So, I participated in Girl Scouts, and I took ballet and tennis lessons and piano lessons, and, did kind of all those types things. But at the same time, I tended to be the only brown person in the room. So whenever I was in those spaces, it would be, in my Girl Scout troop, I was the only brown girl. In my ballet class, I was the only brown girl. And all the different things that I did, I tended to be the only brown girl or brown person, depending upon what it was. And that in and of itself kind of is a boundary breaker. But one of the things that I really tried to be mindful of was to just really and truly embrace myself. I didn't always have the best view or perspective on who, I'll say it this way, I didn't have the best appreciation for my uniqueness. But I did have things that I really enjoyed, which, I was in the band. I started playing the flute in in elementary school. And so as a result, I really got into band. And when I got into high school, going into my junior year of high school, I decided that I wanted to be drum major and tried out for drum major. And I think there was about 7 of us that tried out. And I ended up being one of the 2 people selected to serve as drum major for the upcoming school year. And at that time, I was the first Black female or first Black female drum major for my high school, which is, one of the older schools in Orlando, in the Orlando area.
Wow.
And, and I will say this, I wasn't necessarily I wasn't trying to be a boundary breaker in that regard. I just knew it was something I desired to do. And I didn't know that I couldn't do it because I had been I had been afforded opportunities to be in spaces that people who look like me weren't represented. I didn't know that it wasn't an option for me to be a drum major. And actually at the time, I didn't even know that I was going to be, that I would be the first. I just knew it was something I desired to do. It wasn't until after I was actually, elected, if you will, into that, or selected into that role, that I found that out. Also, while I was in high school, I was very active in my church. I grew up in a Presbyterian church and was in the choir. I did all the things. And for some reason, I was invited to be a member of the church deacon board. And I was in high school.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Yes, because you're still in your youthful time. What did they see in you that they thought that they saw something to now want to offer you a seat at the table, right?
Right. And it was the craziest thing. I was the youngest person in there for sure. Everyone was kind of middle age, my parents' age, if you will. And, I was the secretary because I was the youngest. I was the secretary, but I wasn't just a figurehead, right? They allowed me to participate in the discussions. They asked for my opinion when they were making decisions. Like I said, I wasn't just a token person on that. I was a full participating member of the deacon board, and my voice was heard. And again, this wasn't something that I sought out. It was just an opportunity that presented itself to me. Later on in my career, I ended up being the youngest team member on the management team for this financial services company I was working for, and I was the only female within our entire region who was in management, and found myself in a situation where I was asked to participate in this special project that was being developed by the organization, the global organization. And as a result, when we had our annual conference, they brought together the top agencies. It was, it's a financial services company. So they brought together all of the top agencies and all of the top the directors from these top agencies were in this room. So it was probably about 30 directors in this room to talk about this initiative that I helped to develop, that my input was used to help develop. And I was literally the youngest one in the room, the only female in the room, because financial services typically is male dominated, or at that time it was still male dominated. Not only that, I was one of 3 brown people in the room. I was surrounded by middle-aged white men. And so there have been many times throughout my career when I found myself in these situations where I was the only, or I was the first. And in thinking about that and reflecting on that, I realized that the specific character trait that has manifested itself in my life, knowingly and unknowingly, is leadership. Because obviously, the fact that I was offered a seat at the table in high school, to be on the deacon board, the fact that I was offered a seat at the table to participate in this special project when I was one of the newest agency administrators in the organization and one of the youngest across the organization, to participate in that. And then, finding myself, I've continually found myself in that type of situation. And it's, like I said, it's not because I sought it out. It's because the opportunity found me. But the opportunity found me because I exhibited the characteristics of a leader. So what is a leader? What is leadership? Leadership is the art of motivating a group of people to act when it comes to achieving a common goal. And definitely that's me, because Ruth, in school, we had to do those group projects.
Oh my goodness.
You remember the dreaded group?
Yes, breakout rooms or the breakout tables.
Yes, everyone would have to do their little part and come back together, and we have to present and all of that.
I do remember.
Naturally, like, we would be in our group, and I would either on my own just say, okay, well, what's our approach going to be? And I would just kind of take on this like leadership role. But sometimes I would intentionally be like, I'm going to give somebody else an opportunity, and I'm just going to sit back and relax. And everybody be like, Tracetta, and I'm like, why are y'all looking at me?
Right.
But when that is who you are, whether you want to accept it or not, other people can see it.
Yes.
But it's not just yes, leadership, leaders can also, like, leadership can be a character trait that some people naturally have, but it's also a character trait that you can develop. And every single one of the boundary breaking character traits that we have talked about or discussed over the last 4 weeks are things that you can personally develop if you don't already exhibit them.
100%. Yeah.
I was like, let's take a moment and kind of recap all of the character traits that we've covered from each one of our boundary breaking ladies from that we've highlighted for Black History Month, including ourselves.
Yes.
Ruth, you want to take the first one?
So I'm glad that the first one we tackled this in the first week. By the way, if you all missed the other 3 episodes, yes, I want you to go ahead and go back into the feed and look for our BB, the Breaking Boundaries, because you definitely want to go back and binge watch on those. For me and for everyone who was there, but I'll go ahead and we're going to share with you now. Solidarity. Thank you. It gives me a tongue tied, I promise you. Number one part that really resonated, what I found to be true, and it resonated with me, was unity. That produces or is based on a community. You want to call it tribe, you want to call it, some sort of group, but it's on community of interests, objectives, and standards, right? That was number one. The second one was also one of my favorites is ambition. We want to be able to have that fuel within us. It's a strong desire to do or to achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work. A lot of us tend to neglect the hard work part, right? Like, we want it to be easy. We want it to be able to just come light. Not to say that it won't, but it does require some work. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then in our second week, when we talked about, so the first 2 we were talking about that week, we were talking about Miss Claudette Colvin. And then in week 2, we were talking about Representative Maxine Waters, and her character traits were resolve, which is a firm determination to do something, to not allow outside forces to keep you from moving forward with the thing that you really desire to do. Very similar to perseverance. And then also courage. She exhibited courage, which is the ability to do something that frightens you.
Yes,
or it's the mental or moral strength to persevere and to withstand danger, fear, or difficulty, to, basically go ahead and do it, even though your knees might be knocking, because it's very easy when fear comes in to back down, but to say, no, don't wait for the fear to go away, but do it in spite of the fear. That's what true courage is. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. And it even comes to laying it even further as to how do you want to take that courage and then start to introduce it to new things, which we call innovation, was the other trait. Being able to come up with new ideas, original, having that creative thinking mindset when you're part of a workplace team meeting, or perhaps you're part of family reunion and you want to interact and engage and have people that come out of their, showcase their personality and throw out some game boards or whatever the case may be. That would be the innovative part of you, right? What ways can you definitely create the new way or keep it trending, keep it current, right? Another way is, which is an absolute ride or die, is a trailblazer. How many of you all can relate to trailblazers? How many of you all have at least one in your circle who can be defined as a trailblazer, right? A person who is the first to do something that other people, by the way, do later or don't even do at all.
Yeah. Right? Absolutely. And those traits came from our physicist, Dr. Hedadiah. I know I'm always mispronouncing her first name, but Dr. Green, who invented this groundbreaking treatment for cancer.
Yeah.
And so she is one of our modern day boundary breakers. And then, of course, we get into perseverance. We were talking about perseverance earlier from our boundary breaker, right, herself, Ruth Mack, which is when you're persisting in doing something, right? When you persist, despite any type of difficulty that may come up, despite any type of delay that might come up, despite any type of roadblock that may come up, you persist in the thing until you achieve the success. And then also self-discipline, right? The ability to control your feelings so that you can overcome something that might be considered a weakness, right? Being able to push through, even though a lot, your body or your mind might be saying, I don't feel like doing this today.
Yes.
I don't feel like getting up at 2:00 in the morning to read this stupid.
So what do you all do, right? That's a good part right there, because I love that you brought that emotion, because that's who can relate with that emotion, that you just feel lazy or you just don't have that momentum or that drive in you to do it. And remember, this was back in my early 20s and being a single marriage. So let's talk about, you want to take a couple of seconds here, Tracetta, I think adding on what were the activities or what was the certain muscles that we knew we had to create in order to be able to persevere, in order to become that leader, or in order to be able to have that self-discipline. Well, for starters, for me, because you mentioned something that definitely hit a light bulb moment for me when you wanted to start your day and you're kind of like dragging your feet in to the door. Well, I do what I like to call is the countdown, right? It's called the countdown action. Some people call it the 5-second rule. I do that because I know psychologically it would then turn something on. And just like as though you were talking to your toddler daughter or, siblings or whatever the case may be, you say, okay, I'm going to count to 3 or I'm going to count to 4 or to 10. I, believe it or not, still do it to this day. And it works. Giving myself the grace to sit in the bed and I count to 10 backwards or count to 5 backwards, right? And I get up so I can get myself planned and prepped up to go to the gym. Because it is something that you have to create that discipline, right?
Yeah.
That's one way of doing it. What else?
Well, for me, what I like to do is I do things to set myself up for success. So, for example, with like working out, when I first started working out years ago, I started out going in the evenings after work. So I just would go straight from work. But then when I changed jobs and my office was further away, I had to start going in the morning. And at the time I was not a wake up early kind of gal. I was a wake up at the last possible moment, scramble like a chicken with my head cut off and barely make it to the office on time. That was me. Yeah. And so I had to put some things in place to set myself up for success. So I moved the alarm clock across the room and I would get my gym clothes out the night before and lay them right next to the alarm clock, so that when I got up to turn the alarm clock off, all I had to do was grab my gym clothes, go straight to the bathroom, And I would be in there. I would literally be in the bathroom, like brushing my teeth like this with my eyes closed because
Yes.
I was still, for the first few weeks. But over time, because I did that, over time, my body got used to the transition, and
Yes.
it no longer became self-discipline. It became habit.
I like that. You created that muscle. You allowed yourself to identify with it, get uncomfortable with it, get to the point where you still getting up to drag your feet to the other side of the room to hit the button, but still now, and then to the point where you just get off kindly off the bed. But that's going to take practice, and it's going to take somewhere. We're not telling you, we're not wanting to paint a pretty picture, to you all, and thinking that you're not going to have to reset. You're not going to have to get back up again if you fall. That's not what we're getting at. But this is definitely areas of ways that we want you all to take as certain key traits that has also helped us individually, and how it has helped many of those Black successors, those boundary breakers that we were talking about throughout the course of the month of February. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Let us know in the comments that this has definitely resonated with you. And if it has, go ahead and hit like. And most importantly, share it so we can disrupt the algorithm, so we can start aligning ourselves to hit about thousands of different households on a daily and ongoing basis when we're now live here at Breaking Boundaries. I love for me to always end off by saying this.
Hold on, before you end.
Yes, go.
I'm curious. I'm very curious. For those of you who are watching us live, or those of you who come back and watch the replay, we have already said that each one of these characteristics you can develop. So we want to hear from you. Let us know which one of these characteristics will you be intentional about developing in this year, in 2023. Which one of these will you? And if you have your own that you want to work on, that's fine too. But drop it in the comments. Let us know which one, because you need that accountability. I know you might say in your head, oh, I'm gonna focus on building my perseverance muscle. But there's something about putting it out in the atmosphere. There's something about declaring it that helps to hold you accountable. So drop it in the comments. Let us know, for the sake of accountability, that this is what I'm going to focus on developing, so that I too can be a boundary breaker and make a difference in my family, in my city, in my region, in my state, in my nation.
I love it. I love it. I love every bit of it. Let me know if you all are getting excited. How cool is that? Is it worth it? Is it worth it for you to now go ahead and create a shift? Go ahead and let us know. Like Tracetta said, I'm excited to personally go down there with you all in the comments and reply back to hear how incredible your opportunity of taking action. And let's go ahead and do it all together. Now with the finals closing, I always want you all to know this, because it's a great ancient saying, and it holds very dear to my heart, that whatever you all doing right now with your hands, whatever you're doing, I promise you it works if you stay true to these 3 items. Whatever you're doing, do it with all of your might. Yes. Do it with all of your strength. And most importantly, do it with all of your power. Yes. Be the best. Be the best that you can be. Not what your friends, your neighbor, your mother, your caregiver. Be the best at what you can be. And have an amazing day. And we will see you all next time.
Bye for now.